for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.
On the show today, I've got Spencer Burke. He's the Senior Vice President for Growth at Braze. Braze is a customer engagement platform that delivers messaging experiences across push, email, in-app, and more. Braze delivers cross-channel marketing for the world's largest enterprise and digital-first brands in 40 countries across 6 continents. Spencer joined Braze in 2011 and has helped leading brands develop digital marketing and growth strategies. He previously worked at PwC as a management consultant and has his master's in information systems from the London School of Economics. On the show today, we talk about customer engagement and experience and highlight some of the recent findings from their 2024 Global Customer Engagement Review. We talk about things marketers should be doing right now and how to think about potentially pushing into new channels like messaging apps or push notifications and et cetera. We also can't avoid talking about AI. And so we talk a little bit about what we're seeing, what they're seeing in the survey and report that they recently did, and much more. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Spencer Burke. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hey, Alan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I know we share something in common. We are both girl dads or hashtag girl dad. What's it like for you? I'm happy to commiserate.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 little girls at home. I feel like I'm learning a lot from them all the time. And hopefully they're taking a few things from me as well.
Yeah, I've got a 16-year-old. Yours are younger, much younger than mine, I believe. Less than 5, both of them, right?
Yeah, our oldest is 4 right now. And it's a lot. It's a ton of fun with her. But I feel like she's helped me a lot at work in funny ways too, helping my patience and my listening skills.
I feel like there's a story there, but maybe it's for another time. I think girls in particular, having now a 16-year-old, and hopefully she's not listening to this, but even if she is, they're a lesson in patience, especially as a dad. I don't know what it is, the dynamic between daughter and dad. It's beautiful, but it's also, I think, now I feel a little bit like I have a second person that likes to tell me what to do in my life and my house besides my wife. And of course I listen because I'm dad, but it's a little much some days. Other days it's beautiful and love the extra hugs and the pat on the head and all that kind of stuff I get because she's now taller than me as well. But
yeah, I'm not ready for that. But since you've opened up, I'll give you the quick version of the story because You're right, there is a story behind it. So my default mode, especially at work, and I think a lot of marketers can relate to this, is just to problem solve and fix. You see a challenge, it's in front of you. You want to break it down, figure out, okay, what can we do? What are the next steps? How are we going to go tackle this? And a few weeks ago, we had a big trip planned with the family. We were going to go see kids' grandparents and cousins. Last minute, we had to cancel the trip. And my daughter woke up. She knew she was supposed to be at the airport already and she had slept in. So something was wrong. And of course, it was instant tears and we were upset. And I flipped right into that problem solving mode. And of course, there's nothing to do. Like we'd already decided we couldn't change that. We couldn't hop on a plane and go anywhere else. And she just needed a hug. She needed someone to listen. And that's been my keystone, my big reminder of, hey, sometimes it's not about solving the problem right in the moment. Take a beat. And so I'm trying to take that and integrate that into more of my life.
I love that. That's really good advice, not just for daughters. I think for people and too is to remember to listen first. And sometimes it's just be there. That's really hard to do if you're a problem solver, though, to your point. I've gotten myself in trouble myself.
Yeah, you have to turn it off.
Yes. It's really hard to do if that's what you do at work is solve problems, right? Like, anyway, we could go on, I'm sure, for days.
I think we could.
But let's talk business. And you're the senior vice president of growth at Braze. Tell me a little bit about like your path. Where'd you get your start in your career and how'd you end up where you are?
Yeah, I started with a brief stint in management consulting, and like a lot of folks, enjoyed that, but knew it wasn't me forever. And I was lucky enough in 2011 to have the opportunity to join Braze when it was a very small company. And one of the things that really excited me about the space and what they were doing was just the whole mobile ecosystem. And we take it for granted in so many ways now that our lives are so saturated and so much is around our phone. But in 2011, it was still the early days of the App Store, the iPhone. First iPhone had come out in 2007, mid 2008. The App Store went live, and so in so many ways, 2011 was still the early days of this whole ecosystem growing, and especially for anyone in the marketing field, that was a huge moment. I think we just got our hands around social and our Facebook pages were under control and our Twitter handles were well managed. And then all of a sudden, okay, here's a whole new thing that we have to go learn and understand. And so that was my start at Braze. And over the last 12 and a half years, I've had the luck to do a lot of different roles across the company, and lucky enough today to lead parts of our data, including a team that does a lot of consulting with our largest customers, and then helping manage our go-to-market strategy.
I love it. I love it. Tell us a little bit about Braze and what you guys do, who you serve, all that good stuff.
Braze is a customer engagement platform. We work with some of the world's largest brands, helping them send push notifications, emails, SMS, WhatsApp, as well as some in-product messaging channels like surveys, channel we call content cards. Really any cross-channel orchestration Braze is at the center of. Work with some of the world's largest brands across the world like Bombas, Miro, Nestle, Papa John's, Wendy's. A lot of great companies, and we're really lucky to work with them on some of their cutting-edge marketing strategy, as well as helping them use technology to harness their creativity.
I love it. I love it. So with customer engagement and experience seem to be core to what you guys do. What are some of the traps or challenges to achieving like great client customer experience?
There's a thing for every marketer is on their own journey in a lot of ways. But I think there's a few common themes that we're seeing. We ran our 2024 customer engagement review, where we survey a broad cross-section of marketers, as well as use some of our own aggregated data to understand what's working and what's not working across the ecosystem. I'll give you a few examples from that. I think some of the ones that stand out to me is like there's still perception from a lot of marketers that there's a lack of technology to go execute creative ideas. I find that one really important because there's that moment where like you have that seed of that idea and you want to figure out, okay, how can I actually go do that? And too often you run into a roadblock that there's some aspect of our technology can't do that, or we'd have to go work with the engineering team and they don't have time to support that initiative right now. And so the more that you can cut down that time from ideation to execution and make that feel really easy, the more opportunity there is just to start to really unlock a lot of possibilities.
I love that. And so it sounds like it's less of a lack of technology, even though maybe marketers like myself think that might be the case, but maybe it's getting the right one to deploy.
Yeah. Braze, we would certainly say the technology exists, but do you have it set up? Is it set up well for you? I think a lot of marketers too might be working with kind of stuff that's cobbled together, some duct tape and glue that they've accumulated over the years. I like to overall think about it as activation energy. And it's just this idea like, how much energy does it take you or your team to go from 0 to 1? And the higher, like the more friction there is around that, the higher that barrier feels, the less likely you are to go do something. And when you stop using that creative muscle, it just gets weaker and weaker over time. So that's one that it has this like compounding negative effect as well, which I think for a lot of people becomes a little bit disheartening over time.
Gotcha. And were there other challenges or highlights from the survey that we should know about?
Yeah, a few other things. There's about 42% of respondents in the survey thought they're spending too much time on, say, business as usual execution and tasks. And I don't want to start talking about automation and AI too quickly in a podcast that would put us. I think it's becoming a bit of a cliche at this point. But there's just a sense of marketers that there's a lot of like routine tasks that are time consuming and can hold them back. So I think again in the same theme, it's like, do you have the tools, do you have the structure and setup to make sure that you can spend time on things that are strategic and really adding value and moving the needle in some way for your company?
I like that. We always hear about automation. I think taking the time to actually focus on it, though, so you can free up your time is an important concept. I recently did a survey as well with some executive marketers, and that theme came through as well, like how they spend their time. And an inordinate amount of their time is focused on the day-to-day, like in the business. And we actually saw that if they could free up that time somehow or another and focus on the future a little bit more, that those companies actually reported higher growth rates too.
That's interesting.
Maybe there's a connection of freeing yourself up from the mundane to focus on where the business is going.
Yeah, that might be right. I also think for folks, when you're thinking about efficiency or some kind of automation, is to be really disciplined about how you then go use that time. If your intent is to, I need to spend more time on the future and think about planning or have some more creative brainstorming on some topic.
That's a really good advice. I know there's a lot more probably we could talk about. I don't know if you have another example. I'm also curious, what are key things marketers need to be doing as you think about it?
Yeah, this one I'm going to go back to basics in some ways. I've been really into this idea of understanding what the fundamentals of your role are. For especially in sports, there's any preparation that you're doing, any kind of training, you focus really on a core set of skills. And depending on what it is, be different across every sport, but there's a lot of things in common. There's going to be some basic conditioning. You're going to spend some time running. Maybe you mentioned you have a basketball player in the family. And so any basketball player is going to spend, you're going to spend a lot of time shooting. You're going to spend a lot of time just running back and forth on the court. And that's not stuff that's going to make a highlight reel, but it's the things that really improve your game. And I think the same thing's true in marketing. You have to spend some of those times just on those core skills. And especially as you progress in your career as a leader, it's more about how you enable your people. It's how you bring people together. And related to this, we had an interesting result in this survey where teams that were working more cross-functionally, where they met, I think it was specific to financial services. When they met more often, the results were better. And my takeaway from that is if you're having let's say it's a data challenge, make sure you have that regular cadence with the data team, that you're aligned to a stakeholder or a peer in the business. If there's part of the product that you want to get tracked better, or every time a new part of the product or your website gets updated, you want to make sure you're tracking all the right things to go announce something or track usage or try to drive people to a new subscription, whatever it might be. Have that regular meeting with the product leadership so that they understand what you're trying to do. And I think there's a lot of things in this kind of category that are very approachable, very tactical in a sense. You could go tomorrow, go pull up your calendar tomorrow, open Slack, send a message to someone. Hey, we haven't been meeting. Let's set up a monthly. Let's start there and let's get going. And I think again, it's not the kind of stuff you're gonna see someone on stage at a conference like talking about in a case study, but it's really just a core part of what we do. And I think just one example of how you can up your practice in some basic but impactful ways.
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that. One, I agree with the whole basketball analogy, and my daughter does play, and she was just commenting the other day. She was like, she's in the off season now,
Yeah.
between school seasons, and she's like, I need to get more conditioning, and I'm like, yes, you do, but it's hard to want to go do that because it's not the fun stuff. But this notion of just meeting more often and being closer to constituencies or closer to the people you need around you to make better informed decisions is a good one. And actually, probably something that's may have been challenged during the COVID period in some ways, and or maybe even more challenged now. I don't know if as we go back to like hybrid environments where it's not as easy as just opening a Zoom window. So keeping that forefront is probably a good thing, good back to basics approach.
That's a great point. I think the pandemic and return to office has affected teams in so many ways. If anyone listening is looking for a way, okay, that's a great advice. How do I actually get started? One thing I like to do is actually just write really simple. Open up a spreadsheet and just list out all the people you think who are important to you in your role. And then write down, how often are you meeting with them? Is it once a week? Is it quarterly? Is it never? And then one more column. What's the quality of that relationship? You could use like a red, yellow, green. You could use a 10 scale, whatever works for you. Doesn't matter too much. And then you can just start to see it. Okay, are you meeting with the right people? Is that actually happening? The people you're meeting with are those relationships where you need them to be. If they're important to you and they're not good, what could you actually do to go make a plan and start to improve them? Just some really tactical things that are a little bit outside of you don't have to go make some crazy change to the data. You don't have to go buy a new vendor. You don't have to come up with an award-winning marketing campaign, but just some really great starting point, I think, to making your day-to-day start to see some incremental improvement.
I love it. Love it. Great advice. You mentioned it earlier. Braze is about kind of orchestrating touch points, experiences for customer engagement. How are you guys helping brands and marketers push or think about new channels to optimize what they're doing and maybe optimize their channel mix in general?
Yeah. Throw it back to you quick. So we did a question on this in the survey. We asked about channels that were emerging as a contender right now, and I'm curious for you of the channels that I talked about before. What you know about Braze? What do you think was like one of the top channels of interest to marketers right now?
Email is like a constant, but I don't know, maybe text. That would be my SMS and text would be my guess.
It's close, and I would have guessed email too. It's such a staple, but it's messaging apps. So like WhatsApp, and then
okay,
that's a big one here. But in Japan, there's a messaging app called Line. It's popular in parts of APAC. Kakao's big in South Korea. So as you like go around the world, there's all kinds of apps. Viber is another one. So this kind of ecosystem of messaging apps has been one that we've seen a lot of interest in, and our survey found that too. And I think it's just kind of like I was talking about when I started at Braze, when mobile took off. It's a little bit new as a marketing channel. Everyone's used it for messaging, and now we're just starting to get into these early innings where we can start to use it as part of our marketing program.
No, it's super interesting because what's the word I need to, I'm blanking on a word I need to use, but it's right there. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. Like it's unavoidable, I guess, maybe is the way to think about messaging apps or messages that you pop up, if you will. So getting it right for what marketing message would be appropriate for that, or tagging a service and a marketing message together, I could see a lot of potential value for.
It's funny you say that. We did a case study with a company called Rappi. They're a digital commerce platform in Latin America. And they were WhatsApp really important in the region and for their customers. And so they started to test out the channel, and they saw it. They'd been using it for a while for user acquisition. And I think that was a common starting point. SMS was like this too for a long time. Put in your phone number, they'll send you a link to download the app. You never hear from them again, but you get that link. So it's just part of the acquisition strategy. Now we're seeing more thought put into how it can be part of engagement and retention, and also helping convert users over to a purchase. And so as they were testing it, they found even amongst lapsed users that they're trying to bring back into their product, there's an almost 70% read rate on those messages. I think as an email analog, if you're getting a 70% open rate for people who you thought were lost from using your product, you'd lose your mind with excitement, and maybe you wouldn't even think that it was real. But that's the kind of results people are seeing because, like you said, I think that experience, the message is just a little bit, it's more there, it's more present. And as a result, the engagement with it's been really positive.
And I think the earlier conversations around just being able to orchestrate that as one element of all of the channels that you might use, it becomes hyper important, right? I just went to the dentist today, and not to throw shade at my dentist, but I get an email reminder to confirm my meeting. I get a phone call and I get a text. If I respond to the email, do I need all the others? Or vice versa? They're obviously not using your service.
No, actually, sounds like they need to be.
Yes, exactly. So getting it right and having that feedback loop to say, okay, we got the signal, stop. I think is just as important as trying to figure out how to use the channel itself. Interesting.
That's a classic move, I would say. And what I've seen in where marketing programs start is it's the same message on every channel. And that's not only does that become a little bit frustrating for your customer, it's the most expensive strategy. You're paying for that call. SMS is a relatively expensive channel. Email is more cost effective, but you're doing all three. And for one of the great things, like for companies, when you have an app, you can using more of your own channels, really low cost, can be really context specific. Someone's in your product, give them a quick reminder, hey, you have an appointment coming up next week. So it's absolutely part of what people should be thinking about. And luckily, the data backs up the intuition on this. And it's something we've looked quite a bit at. But when it comes to things like purchase conversion, then like having a cross-channel customer journey, you can see a 6.5x uplift in purchases per user compared to like solely in product messages. If you're not doing any kind of outbound messaging, that's a big opportunity. But then when you bring those channels together, you orchestrate that and use them not just as a barrage to a single person, but use them in harmony together, you can really see a significant uplift.
Love that. 6.5x. That's a big change. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. But I think it's not just your dentist. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. Like we see a third of marketers are they still rely on a collection of point solutions to try to do this. That makes orchestrating these things challenging. About the same amount said that consistency is a priority, which means for 2/3 of them, it's not a priority. And I think that's a big opportunity for a lot of people. Can you consolidate some of the technology, make your life easier, and then make the customer experience a lot better by bringing all that message into a more consistent, more harmonized approach.
Great. We mentioned the word a little while ago, or the two letters, AI. It does seem that everyone in marketing in particular, but I think everyone in general is talking about AI. What are you seeing in your work and the research in terms of use or experimentation with AI?
Yeah, pretty much everyone is trying AI. In our survey, it was 99%. So every marketer's, and that doesn't feel surprising to me. Since ChatGPT became a phenomenon, it's become a topic of conversation even at a dinner room table. So the fact that marketers have found a way to put into practice doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and it seems to be, I think most people that I talk to are experimenting. I think that's the right word. And few have actually started to work it into their workflow in some shape or some way, whether that's seeding ideas for drafting copy or thinking about, I need to write this email Let me turn to AI to help me just get a starting point that I can then edit from there. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, we asked about this, and I expected there to be one really common use case, and that would probably be related to copywriting or helping generate ideas. And that was one of the answers, but across about 6 different things, like everything from creating creative ideas, automation, real-time optimization, for data analysis, predictive analytics, like personalization. There's about like 40 to 50% of people are trying like one of those, but it was the full mix. There's no single clear winner. And I think that's an interesting thing right now is everyone's figuring this out in their own way.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. And that's high to say we're basically trying everything to see what sticks, maybe.
No, I think that's right. And I think for a lot of companies, we're still at such an early stage of this. And I think everyone has really high expectations for what's possible. And with my teams, I recommend trying to find a balance of do the things that make sense, like where you're finding value, and then keep allocating a little bit of time towards things that feel like they're at the cutting edge. You don't know exactly if the bet's going to pay off or what the impact will be. But I think for a lot of these things, when the technology moves fast, you need to be there riding that wave a little bit. It's all about getting the time allocation right. But if you're totally absent from it, it gets harder and harder to track. And I've even seen this as when I have less time to follow this stuff over. We have a really busy quarter. The space just moves so fast that you can start to lose some of the context. So trying to find ways just to not go too deep, but to stay contemporary can really help.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. We've talked about customer engagement. We've talked about AI. We talked about orchestrating new channels and touch points like messaging apps. A lot to take away. One of the things we love to do on the show, though, is to get to know you a little bit better. So we know you're a girl dad. We both are. We share that experience. But my favorite question to ask everybody that comes on the show is, has there been an experience of your past that defines or makes up who you are today?
I love this question. I might start asking it during interviews myself. I thought a lot about this. And one of the things that really helped define my path was joining the debate team in high school. And it wasn't something I knew a lot about before I did, but I'd moved, I was at a new high school, looking for a new activity, fell into debate and really loved it. Met a lot of great people, made some friends that I'm still really close with today, but introduced just this way of thinking and speaking and arguing and doing so in good spirits for the academic exercise and not to get the best of someone. But that was really formative for me. And it's actually been great since then too, just meeting people who used to be debaters in high school or in college. It's a shared experience in many ways, even if you didn't know each other at the time.
I love that. I love that. And I would imagine, a little bit of a skill to use every single day. not to say that you're argumentative, but that you're always trying to, I think in business in general, most people are trying to advocate for a side, right? Or a perspective or one half of the decision. There's so many things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like a very formative skill.
Yeah. And I would say, even if you're not really great at arguing or a great debater, just being aware that you can go and have a really heated discussion about something and advocate for a point of view and not take it personally. That alone, even if you didn't go take away the skills to go win every argument, that alone I find to be a huge leg up professionally, because I think for a lot of folks, it's hard to divorce that emotional and sometimes like personal feeling experience. So this is my idea. This is like something I'm pushing for, versus trying to separate yourself from it. And then, if someone else has a persuasive point of view, that may be what wins the day.
I love it. That's good advice for society right now too. not to get political, but we could use a little bit more of that. Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you give your younger self if you're starting this journey all over again?
to try to find the right advisors and the right mentors. I think I had those people at certain moments, but I think especially when you're young and you're making a lot of choices about your career and where to go to university and just these decisions that end up having a huge impact on your life, having the right people that you really trust to bounce ideas off and starting to build that muscle and humility to be mentored. I think I could have done a much better job of, and I don't know if it's young men specifically or what. I don't. You have a teenage daughter, so you might have a point of view on this too. But I think that's something that I'd recommend for a lot of people as you're starting to get into that age. Is find someone you really trust to help think about your decisions as you start to get into high school and teenage years, especially. But then even in your early 20s, and having that almost like board of directors for your personal life, I think would be an asset that I try to convince my younger self. I don't know if he'd listen, but I'd try.
Love it. Love it. Is there a topic you think marketers need to be learning more about, or maybe something you're just trying to learn more about yourself?
Yeah, this will be maybe split the marketing audience a little bit. So I tend to be more on the data-driven quantitative side of the marketing universe in many ways. And so I've tried to learn more about creativity and the creative process. I'm still in the early innings of this, trying to get better and better. But there's a book, Creativity Inc., about Pixar and Pixar's founding, which I'd really recommend people read. I've also tried through getting into some of the advertising world, like looking at who's winning a Cannes Lion and what are those campaigns like, and what are some of the really amazing ways brands have told their story and gotten a message across. So that's, as someone who's not as strong in that area, but knowing that there are many marketers who are just absolutely amazing at it, that's been an area I've been spending time.
I love that. I'll give you one resource potentially. There's a guy named Mark Ritz who writes prolifically outside the US. He's a fan of the podcast, so he's a friend. He's been on the podcast before, Professor Oriole type. He leads a couple of education offerings now through Marketing Week, which is a UK publication. But I say all of this, that he's got some amazing YouTube videos that actually break down Effie award-winning campaigns, deconstructs them. And I think it's fantastic learning material for somebody that's interested in what makes creative or campaigns work. I will. They're really good. And he's super entertaining. Probably not something that you want to have running in the background with your little ones walking around, because occasionally he drops some bad words, but definitely entertaining and insightful. So I will send it to you as well. But a couple of questions left for you. Are there any trends or subcultures that you follow you think other people should take notice of?
Bring it back to kids one last time. I don't know if this is how much of a trend this is, or if it just feels like it is for me right now, but we were learning how to ride a bike, my daughter. And when I was learning, you did the progression. Maybe you had your tricycle, you got your training wheels. Now kids are zooming around on these balance bikes. Have you? Yeah. Not to make this an balance bikes. Have you seen these? Yeah. I have. If for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, it's a really small bike, 2 wheels, no pedals, so the kids can just push off and lift their feet up and zoom around. And the theory is you need to learn how to balance and get a feel for being on 2 wheels on the bike. And then when you do, you never need training wheels. You can just jump right on pedals and you're off to the races. I was a little skeptical, but my daughter loved the balance bike, so my skepticism didn't really matter. This weekend, we leveled up the pedal bike, and it just worked. And I couldn't believe it, but that was cool to me. And it's something that was totally different from when we were kids. I thought was cool. And it must be a trend for how many kids I see on these things now.
Yeah. No, I was curious if it worked. You had me hanging. Because they weren't.
Wholehearted endorsement.
Yeah, that's great. When my daughter was young, they were there, but not like they are now. It's almost ubiquitous. I see them everywhere now. And tiny kids on them. The struggle of trying to learn how to ride a bike. And I'll have to put a plug in for REI, the outdoor store. amazing how to learn a bike course. She learned how to ride a bike in a few hours in a parking lot at a REI. I had one of those kids and she still is this today. You can't tell her anything. If you're her parent, you cannot tell her anything. But you put her with a stranger, they can tell her and teach her how to do anything. And the REI has a great course that they've trained associates to do. So if you don't have a balanced bike, people, go to REI. They'll make your life so much easier.
Great advice.
I think if I had it to do all over, I would have definitely done the balanced bike because I think it is that balance thing that's the hardest thing for people to figure out.
No, it really does work. And I like this idea too that it wasn't adding something to the bike, it was taking something away. And I think training is okay. We make the bike a little bit more complicated to help you, and we'll add something onto it. And this is, there's this kind of beauty in the simplicity of let's remove something. And when we do that, it gets easier. So maybe we can turn it into a life lesson or a marketing lesson too, if we try hard enough.
I love that. I had not thought about that. That's really insightful. I hadn't thought about it, but you're right. Make it simpler. It's the original MVP.
Yeah.
We deconstructed the bike into its pure essence to get to
See,
the first MVP.
We're lucky we're not philosophers, Alan.
Oh, man, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Last question for you. What do you feel is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
I'll do an opportunity, and it's the flip side of the creative piece, the space that I feel comfortable in. I think there's a lot of opportunity for marketers to become better at storytelling with data. And there are more resources, similar to what you're saying with your friend's YouTube series and writing. There's more resources than ever before to help you become a better marketer. And I think in that way, it's just an amazing time to be a marketer. The tools and resources we have at our fingertips, it's incredible. But I think for a lot of marketers, there can be a discomfort with data, especially if you are the opposite of me and tend to be stronger on the creative side. But it's really a superpower for you, especially if you're trying to persuade an executive or your leadership team of something. Having command of the data can really help your case and can also help you share your own success stories and help people understand the impact you're having on the business. So I would say that's the opportunity I would encourage people to explore.
Awesome. Spencer, thank you so much for spending time with us, talking about all the various topics we got to cover. And good luck with your daughters. They're a joy, but watch out. Teenage life is real.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and the same to you. Hopefully you can help with the conditioning regimen.
Exactly. Have a good one.
Thanks, Alan.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me with post-production support from Sam Robertson. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe on marketingtodaypodcast.com. Tell your friends and colleagues about the show. I love hearing from listeners. You can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes and links to what was discussed in the episode today, and you can search our archives. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.